Welcome to the Friday edition of Wine's World, and as I promised, I have managed to do some cooking for you. Not the most original or spectacular perhaps, but in the vein of what I call chameleon cooking, that is taking standard recipes and switching them up somewhat. So this time I've taken English cottage pie, something I've talked about several times, because there's cottage pie, which is made with beef and onions and maybe some vegetables like carrots and peas, or shepherd's pie, which is made with lamb and also some vegetables, possibly carrots and peas, and then topped with mashed potato. Right, that's bog standard English cooking. Well, how about Cambodian pie? I don't have a better word for it. It's like a cottage pie, except that instead of using the English aromatics, which include, thyme, parsley, maybe some Worcestershire sauce, and so forth, I'm using Cambodian aromatics, and it makes a completely different pie. So let's get started on that. Alright, first thing we need to do is to sweat the onions. Now when I'm making a cottage pie, I will brown them and then add the beef and brown it and then add beef stock and so forth. I'm not going to do that here. What I'm going to do is just soften up the onions somewhat, add a few leeks, because I always use leeks in my meat dishes in Southeast Asia, and just give them enough of a saute to soften them up, get them going, and then add the beef and brown it, and then toss it all together with the onions. And then I'm going to add chopped shallot, chopped garlic, and moisten it all up and add my Cambodian spices. Now this is going to be a somewhat sour dish, not very sour. I'm not going to add any lime, but I am going to add some Asian sauces in a minute. First I'm going to add my aromatics, which include galangal, kaffir lime leaves, morning glory leaves, and a variety of other green herbs which I get at the market, which have Cambodian names which I can't really translate. There's one, for example, called rice paddy herb. I have no idea what it is, but it all goes in, and others like it. Chopped all relatively fine into the pot, and then my sauces. And the two sauces that I'm adding are fish sauce and oyster sauce, and I'm using a particular oyster sauce that is a special grade of oyster sauce made with oysters in China. Alright, and I'm also going to add some mushrooms just to add a little body to the whole filling, and then just simmer as I always do, and taste, add a little MSG, because I always do that. Well, I probably shouldn't, because my sodium count could go through the roof if I'm not careful. I do try to keep my sodium under control, but oyster sauce and soy sauce and hoisin sauce and all those other Chinese sauces are loaded with salt. So I don't add ever any salt to my dishes, but they get salted anyway. Alright, so when that's done, after about an hour, then into its cooking pot to cool off, and then into the refrigerator overnight. Always, always, always soups and stews overnight in the refrigerator. Then next day, make some mashed potatoes. I don't need to teach you how to make mashed potatoes, I hope. Spread the mashed potatoes over the top of the filling into the hottest oven I can manage, and bake with both the bottom burner and the top burner on, so that the filling cooks all the way through and the top browns. And meanwhile, I have taken the remaining liquid from the cooking of the beef and the filling, and added some thickener. Arrowroot I use when I can. It's a nice thickener. And I've added some mushrooms just to give a little extra punch to the sauce. Then out comes the Cambodian pie from the oven onto a plate with some sauce and mushrooms, and down the hatch. Easily done, and you can play around with this in any way you want. You can add more vegetables, you can change your aromatics, and on and on and on. That's part of being a chameleon cook. So, hope you have a good weekend. I'll be back on Tuesday. Not sure what I'm going to do. Might be another recipe, but I doubt it. It's probably going to be something just kind of maundering on about whatever was on my mind, particularly because I'm doing a lot of writing right now because publishers are knocking down my door, and that's great, but it's taking up all of my time, and don't have a lot of time for cooking, don't even have a lot of time for videos. But please like, please subscribe, please tell your friends, and I will be back on Tuesday.